Now it's time for TIPisodes with quick tips you should know. Techniques you can implement into your workflow right here on A Tale, oh yeah, A Tale of Two Hygienists.
Welcome everybody into this week's TIPisode. Hope you're having a great Friday or whatever day you're listening to this episode on. I'm joined today by Sue. Sue, thanks for being here again.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You know, the idea behind TIPisodes is really let's give clinicians tips to make their either conversations with the patients a little bit easier or better or more effective, or maybe giving them tips for themselves of like how to be more fluid in their processes and things like that. And so this question kind of keeps coming up, and I'm a little bit embarrassed by our profession, if I can be honest. Like, why are we still talking about baking soda, and why are hygienists still not recommending it for it being so abrasive? I don't understand that. I mean, you've heard this, right?
Yeah, I actually remember the first conversation with the doctor that I worked with for a long time, and, you know, being like, not having a great understanding why all of a sudden we had all these patients with dentin hypersensitivity. And he was like, it's got to be abrasive toothpastes, you know?
Right.
And like, that was the start of the conversation for us. And so I'm going back like 20 years here and, you know, thinking like, okay, it's got to be the toothpaste. We've got to avoid, you know, anything with baking soda was like where we were at as a staff.
Yeah.
And so it was this idea that I guess because if we think about dry baking soda in our hands, it's gritty, right? And so you can almost imagine it, right? And whereas if we think about baking soda and we pour it into water, it immediately dissolves. And so it's not that, you know, so we're stuck on what we feel if it's dry, but we know like that's not the case with toothpaste. And
you know what? I love that. And I love that like visual like comparison. So in other toothpaste, like you can't extrapolate the whatever the abrasive particle is, right? The part that's causing the friction, and hold it in your hand. But I bet if you could, it would probably scare you a little bit about what those particles look like.
Yes. Yeah. I can totally see that and envision. And then you can also envision, right, how we put baking soda into water for other things and how immediately you can see it dissolve. You know, as soon as it's suspended in water, right? So I don't know if suspended is the right word, but as soon as it's put in there, sorry, that might have been totally the wrong word, but you know what I mean? Like you can see that, right? Pouring it in, it dissolves immediately, and you see that cloudy water because it has dissolved.
So as a quick disclaimer, y'all probably saw on the artwork and in the title and all these different things, we're going to be talking about the Arm & Hammer toothpaste specifically, because this is kind of like where the conversation about baking soda really is being had, is around this particular line. And so I let's dive into maybe the reality. What is the RDA values for Arm & Hammer's line versus maybe some of the competitors?
Yeah, so when you look at the RDA value just of baking soda, it's 7. It's that low. Which is interesting. Can
you clarify what the range actually means?
Yeah.
Is low good? Is low bad?
When you look at the ADA recommendations for RDA value, they want a toothpaste to be below 250 on the RDA value scale. And so when you look at the Arm & Hammer toothpaste, you see a range from 44 to 154, depending on which toothpaste you're looking at. But, you know, what we understand from that is we are still significantly below that ADA recommended RDA value. And so it's interesting to me when you look at just baking soda itself that it's only a 7. And it's the whitening toothpaste that have a much higher RDA value. So there is a list out there that you can look at on the RDA values when you do a lunch and learn with Arm & Hammer. Actually, that professional educator that does that presentation can go over the RDA values of the different lines. But I was really interested, you know, when I saw how low it actually is on the scale. So for example, I use the sensitive one. I absolutely love that one. That's what I have on my bathroom counter. You could walk in my bathroom right now and it's going to be sitting there. And the RDA value is only a 45. And it really is interesting to see those RDA values, what is recommended and where the toothpaste that we recommend and that we use fall in that chart.
No, I love it. I mean, and that's the funny part. It's like, you know, you guys are all thinking that baking soda was the culprit. It's a 7. It's like the lowest thing on the scale.
Yep.
So other than abrasivity, I think one of the other things that we look at a lot is pH in toothpaste. What can you tell me about that?
Yeah. So pH is an interesting thing to me. I don't know about you, but I'm always like, which way on the scale goes acidic and neutral? And when we think about pH levels, we want to be pH balanced, right? So we want the oral cavity, to land in that balanced range, which would be a 5, right? So on average, the pH level of an Arm & Hammer baking soda toothpaste falls around 8.4 for pH. So it's really a great way to help your patients to neutralize the pH levels to prevent, right? The bacteria loves an acidic environment to cause decay. And when we have our patients introduce the baking soda toothpaste, it helps to neutralize the pH levels so that they don't create that environment where they can, experience a higher risk of decay.
Sometimes when we're balancing pH, though, I think that we give, I don't know how to maybe term this, but I feel like we're giving on the flavor, we're giving on the taste. And what if people they don't really care for the taste of it? Is it like a salty flavor? What are they tasting?
Yep. For an individual that's not used to baking soda in their toothpaste, it certainly could have a salty flavor. But recently, Arm & Hammer launched a new toothpaste. It's called Complete Care, and it has a lower percent of baking soda in it so that it's a great way to introduce them to baking soda toothpaste. It has a smoother, kind of mintier flavor, and it's really what they say is ideal for intro. And what that is going to do is it's going to be that gateway for them into transitioning to a baking soda toothpaste. That toothpaste has a 20% baking soda formula, and really that is where it is recommended for acid neutralization.
So this is on the lower end of that. So as you continue down different lines, then you might experience a little bit different of a taste.
Yeah.
Does lowering that concentration change the RDA value of it at all? Like, is it now, are they adding things to make, give yourself a little bit more abrasivity?
Yes. So that's where you'll see the toothpaste, depending upon which one, they will change on where they fall into that list that we were talking about before,
Right.
that RDA scale, but they all are still significantly below the recommended maximum by the ADA.
So my last question for you is, this is going to be maybe a little bit too basic of a question, but I feel like a lot of people are like, okay, well, look, if we know that baking soda is this good, we know that it's going to increase the pH to more of a basic pH. And why can't we just do a mixture of baking soda water at home and call it good? Or, how are we differentiating between other baking soda toothpaste that are out there?
A lot of other baking soda toothpaste, I want to address that first. So a lot of them have only a 5% of baking soda. And so that's not getting patients to where they need to be to neutralize those plaque acids. So the Arm & Hammer line is going to have the concentration that gets the patients what the maximum benefit that we're looking for them. And as far as using baking soda and water at home, I think it becomes a patient compliance issue, right? Don't you think most people want to walk away? They want to feel that minty fresh, that great taste. And they're not going to get that by just putting baking soda and water and brushing with that. So it's a compliance factor. We want to recommend something that we know our patients are going to enjoy using. And that's always been my go-to, right? Is it something that has science to back it? Is it something that's effective? And is it something that our patients are going to use?
No, I love it. Listeners, we're going to put a link in the notes to an RDA chart that you can look at just so you can see these values for yourself, because I think it's really important that while we're hearing from great experts like Sue, we also do a little bit of our own self-study. So I'm going to make that easy for you. I'll put it in the show notes. You can click through that and find it. So if anyone had any questions for you, or if they had any questions about the products, where do they turn to?
Yeah, so if you have more questions about the Arm & Hammer toothpaste line, I really want to encourage you to go to oralcarepro.com/Arm & Hammer. That is going to be a great way to see what are the toothpaste products that are out right now, the different ones I talked about. My preference, I use the sensitivity one, but there are 8 different, I believe it's 8 different ones that patients can choose from that you can recommend based on their oral health needs. So I would definitely check that out. They also have a Lunch and Learn program that's phenomenal, and it's really going to help. If you have other staff members that are questioning baking soda in toothpaste and your patients using it, this is going to help to debunk those myths that are floating around about baking soda and toothpaste.
I love that. Lunch and learns are so vital, I think. But it's a very missed opportunity, I think, for most offices.
Yeah.
Sue, thanks for being here. I appreciate it very much.
Thanks for having me.
A tale of two hygienics.